Our first reading today is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 13. If I speak in the tongue of humans and of angels, but I do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I prophesy, if I have prophetic powers, too strong on the P's, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. And when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put away childish ways, to the end of childish ways. For now, we see only a reflection as in a mirror, but then we will see face to face. Now, I only know in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love remain. These three. And the greatest of these is love. Our next scripture reading is 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 8. For this very reason, you must make every effort to support your faith with excellence, and excellence with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with endurance, and endurance with godliness, and godliness with mutual affection, and mutual affection with love. For if these things are yours and are increasing among you, they will keep you from being ineffective and unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. May God take these words to our heart in our sermon.
Morning. It's always good to be home. For those of you that don't know me, this was the church that I was raised in. In fact, I commented this morning that I was here when we broke ground for this facility, and the men used to build the whole entire facility. So I have many fond memories of this place. And for those of you who don't know, Kenneth and Jessie Brownell were my parents, and this is my father's tie in celebration of today, as well as his suspenders. If you ever saw him, he always had a tie and suspenders on. So I brought him with me today. He's close to my heart. A father passing by his son's bedroom was astonished to see that the room was completely cleaned up, and the bed was made, everything was put away. And then he saw an envelope propped up on the pillow, and it said, "To Dad." With dread, the father grabbed the envelope and started to open it. And he read the letter. Dear Dad, it is with great regret and sorrow that I am writing you. I had to elope with my new girlfriend because I wanted to avoid a scene with Mom and you. I have found real passion with Stacy, and she is so nice. But I knew you would not approve of her because of all of her piercings and tattoos, tight motorcycle clothes, and the fact that she's much older than I am. But it's not only the passion, Dad. She's pregnant. Stacy said that we would be very happy together. She owns a trailer in the woods and has a stack of firewood to keep us warm for the whole winter. And we share a dream of having many more children. Stacy has opened my eyes to the fact that marijuana doesn't really hurt anyone. We'll be growing it for ourselves and trading it with the other people that live nearby for cocaine and ecstasy. In the meantime, we will pray that science will find a cure for AIDS so Stacy can get better. She deserves it. Don't worry, Dad. I'm 15 and I know how to take care of myself. Someday, I'm sure that we will be back to visit you so that you can get to know all of your grandchildren. Love, your son John. P.S. Dad, none of the above is true. I'm over at Tommy's house. P.P.S. I just wanted to remind you that there are worse things in life than a school report card, and that's in the center desk drawer. I love you. Call me when it's safe to come home. Indeed, today is Father's Day. It is that brief period each year that we pause and we celebrate the men who encouraged us, fed us, guided us, and loved us. It is a moment in time when we express maybe what we have failed or forgotten or were afraid to tell the man that had made our life possible. I was one of the fortunate ones. I had an incredible relationship with my dad, especially as an adult. As I reflect on the journey that we shared, I have come to realize that I patterned my life after him. Born in 1915, he was the oldest of 4 children, and when the Depression hit in 1929, his family lost the family farm. At 14, he began a series of jobs that helped to support his family. Clarence Keeland once said, "My father didn't tell me how to live. He lived and let me watch him do it." I believe our parents, in the process of creating our foundation of life, especially the core principles that each of us carries forward in life, into all of our relationships and in our later life. Our parents do that by being an example to live by. All of us who have ever been alive in the 1970s will remember the song "Cat in the Cradle." And one of the final verses states, "And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he had grown up just like me. My boy was just like me." We learn by your example. Today, I'd like to share with you just a few core principles that my dad lived by and taught me. If we had all day, I could share them all with you and tell you many a story about my family, but instead, here are a few of the things that he taught me. The number one focus in Dad's life was God and faith. I am reminded of Charles Fillmore's definition of God in the Revealing Word. God is personal to us when we recognize Him within us as in our indwelling life, intelligence, love, and power. It would probably be better to speak of God individualized in man, in the universal identification of ourselves with Him, that we come into the God consciousness. God is that from which all love springs. And my dad believed that everything was always going to be all right if we just trusted God. Every time we are forced to face our fears, our faith deepens. Our spiritual journey through life is about deepening our faith. Everything in our life depends on our beliefs and our faith. It isn't easy to believe in something we cannot see, cannot touch, or cannot feel. But it is our faith and belief in God, in the divine being, that is always responsible for our demonstration in life. Family meant everything to Dad. As the oldest child, he took great pride in regularly reaching out to his siblings after their father was killed in the 1930s. He was always communicating with cousins and aunts and uncles and extended family members, and often I heard from cousins how Dad called them regularly to check on them. He was still doing that a couple of weeks before he transitioned. He especially called those who had lost their parents and grandparents. He didn't want anyone to feel alone or excluded. To a certain degree, that is a tough pill to swallow sometimes, to be alone. But let us remember our oneness as we prepare to enter another political season. It's easy to forget that we are one family when we sort ourselves by political affiliations. And trust me, Dad and I did. I won't tell you about our arguments. At my dad's memorial service, many people spoke of his kindness. Not long before he passed, I asked where he had learned to be so kind. And I knew the story. I had heard it more times than I needed to. But he promptly replied, "Grandfather Leventon." He adored his grandfather. And he told me how he would learn lessons from my great-grandfather while working in their farm fields. And one day they were in town to get some seed or something, and Dad and Grandfather Leventon were walking along, and as they passed a girl that acknowledged my dad, that was one of his classmates, he ignored her, and even though she had acknowledged him. Grandfather stopped, grabbed my dad, jerked him around, and immediately said, "Why didn't you say hello to her? She acknowledged you." "Oh, you know, Grandpa, she's fat and ugly, and besides, nobody at school likes her." And Grandfather looked at him and pointed into his face and said, "It doesn't cost you anything to be kind and friendly." He would often remind me that my hello and smile may be the only acknowledgement that an individual receives each day. 3 things in human life are important, wrote novelist Henry James in the early 20th century. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. The third is to be kind. A recent article in Psychology Today tells us we remember kindness too. Its trail of goodwill echoes through our memory banks like sweet perfume long after the moment has passed. Kindness moves us, it nourishes us and heals us, it strengthens us, it uplifts us. A smile, a touch born of kindness can crack open the most rugged of hearts, unclinched the tightest of fists. It has been hailed by poets and philosophers and spiritual leaders as a gift, a religion, a language audible to the deaf and visible to the blind, a weapon to fight evil and mankind's greatest delight. And now science is showing just why these accolades ring true. Kindness boasts the well-being of the givers as well as the receivers. In order to be kind to others, we must first begin by being self-compassionate. The traits of a kind person are more, according to recent researches. They include good listener, patience, and they give without expecting anything in return. They are honest, show love, and easily and always express gratitude. Dad was a lifelong learner, and he encouraged others to be the same. Learning and mentally growing began at an early age for me. When I was 3 and we lived at 511 Pine Street, 3 houses shared a collective fence in our backyard. And for a couple of weekends, the 3 men from those houses got together and rebuilt the fence. Well, the old boards became my creative projects. I used Dad's tools to make boats and planes and boxes and kites and toys of whatever shape I could come up with. And almost every other day I asked Dad, "Bring home another bag of nails, Daddy, from Diamond Match." He never ever tried to tell me how I wasn't doing it right, but always praised my latest creation and encouraged me to learn how to use even more tools. While learning is an individual process, it is made far easier when we're encouraged and praised and our environment inspires us. I look back at those primitive creations and I chuckle now. I wish I had a few pictures of them. They were pretty bad. However, they taught me responsibility and to clean up. Dad always taught me 1 or 2 new things with each of my creations. And I was excited each time I tried to make something new. Encouragement, praise, and understanding are certainly attributes we can all use to help develop emotional, spiritual, and mental growth, regardless of anyone's age. Always bring your sense of humor and be willing to laugh at yourself. My dad always had a joke to tell as well as quick wit about him. After he'd tell a story or respond with one of his zingers, he'd sit back and quietly smile. He was always willing to laugh at himself as well, something I think all of us need to do. And if anyone ever doubted that his clean humor was appropriate, he would remind them that Jesus used his sense of humor regularly. Jesus was not always serious during his life on earth. He lived his life knowing there was a proper time for everything, including humor. We need only look at Ecclesiastes 3:4, where it states there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Jesus used a bit of sarcasm and a bunch of good-natured humor when he picked his disciples. In the book of Mark, he jokingly renamed James and John, who were brothers, with the title Boangers. This nickname means sons of thunder or sons of commotion. It was no doubt given as a humorous recognition of their sometimes misplaced and impulsive behavior, as well as their over-the-zealous manifestation during his ministry. Or how about Luke 6:41? In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus exercised humor when he stated, "Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but pay no attention to the log in your own? First, take the log out of your own eye." A healthy sense of humor is good for all of us. After all, laughter gets those healing endorphins working again. Dad believed it was our job to be of service. He regularly volunteered for committee work in all organizations that he belonged to. There was the Kiwanis Club, where he was president, and he was vice chair of the City of Chico Planning Commission, or he served as Big and Little Sur for Sur Branch 63, and also volunteered as a treasurer for the Salvation Army Advisory Board. He was always reminding both my brother and I that what you put out is what comes back. He encouraged us to volunteer and help others, since you never knew when you might be on the receiving end. Service, after all, is a part of kindness. I think Michael Beckwith said it best. You're here to serve the great law of life. You are, in fact, in service to the supreme creative idea that proliferates our environment. It is the life of God that is thinking through your mind, working through your hands, walking through your feet. It does the work appointed for you to do and perfects that which concerns you when you no longer work for the little self, but serve the greater self of your being and the universe. There is no greater way to make service happen than through our faith and belief in God. A new father was shared his experience of importance of a pickle jar in his life. As far back as he could remember, that pickle jar sat on the floor next to the dresser in his parents' bedroom. As a boy, he would squat on the floor in front of the jar and he would admire the silver and the copper that were laying in the jar, and he felt that it looked like a pirate's treasure when the sun poured through the bedroom window in his parents' room. When the jar was filled, the father would sit at the kitchen table and roll the coins before taking them to the bank. Taking to the bank, the coins was always a big production. Stacked neatly in a small cardboard box, the coins were placed between two of them on the seat of his dad's old car. Each and every time as they drove to the bank, his father would look at Tommy hopefully. These coins are going to keep you out of the text mill, son. You're going to do better than me. This old mill town is not going to hold you back. Each and every time he'd slide the box of coins across the counter at the bank towards the cashier, and he would grin and proudly announce, "These are for my son's college fund. He'll never work at the mill all his life like me." They would always celebrate each deposit by stopping for an ice cream cone. And when the clerk at the ice cream parlor handed Dad his change, he would show me the few coins nestled in his palm. "When we get home, we'll start filling that jar again." He always let Tom drop the first coins in the empty jar. And as they rattled around with brief, happy jingle, they grinned at each other. "You'll get to college someday, Tommy, on pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters," he said. "But you'll get there. I'll see to that." The years passed and Tom finished college and took a job in another town. Once while visiting his parents, Tom used the phone in their bedroom and noticed that the pickle jar was gone. It had served its purpose and had been removed. A lump rose in his throat as he stared at the spot beside the dresser where the jar had always stood. His dad was a man of few words and never lectured him on the value of determination, perseverance, and faith. The pickle jar had taught him all of these virtues far more eloquently than the most flowery of words could have done. When he married, Tom told his wife Susan about the significant part of the lowly pickle jar that had played in my life or in his life as a boy. In his mind, it defined more than anything else how much his dad had loved him. No matter how rough things got at home, Dad continued to doggedly drop the coins into the jar. Even the summer when his dad got laid off from the mill and his mom had to serve dried beans several times a week, not a single dime was taken from the jar. To the contrary, his dad would look across the table, pour ketchup over his beans to make them palatable, and he became more determined than ever to make way for his son. "When you finish college, Tom," he would say, his eyes glistening, "you'll never have to eat beans again unless you want to." The first Christmas after his daughter was born, they spent the holidays with Tom's parents. After dinner, his parents sat on the couch, each one of them cuddling their first granddaughter. And Jessica began to whimper softly, and Susan took her from her dad's arms. "She probably needs to be changed," she said, carrying the baby into the bedroom to diaper her. And when Susan came back into the living room, there was a strange mist in her eyes. She handed Jessica to Tom's dad before taking Tom's hands and walking him back into the bedroom and the dresser. To Tom's amazement, there, as if there had never been removed, stood the old pickle jar, the bottom already covered with coins. He walked over to the pickle jar, dug deep down into his pocket, and pulled out a fistful of coins. And what a gamut of emotions choking him, he dropped the coins into the jar. He looked up and saw his dad carrying Jessica, who had slipped quietly into the room. Their eyes locked, and he knew he was feeling the same emotion inside. Neither one of them spoke. Love doesn't always need words. Some of us have fathers, others have stepdads. Or maybe it was an uncle or a coach, a family teacher, or a family friend, a family teacher that was a father figure to you. Whoever it was, living or deceased, on this sacred day of celebration of fathers, remember to share love and gratitude with those who have made your journey easier and filled with love. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours, and so it is. Amen.